This build features content from a pack I got for free through the EA Creator Network. Hello, today I am building in Windenburg, back on my favorite lot in this world. Because of all of the naturey Sims news that has been happening recently, I felt inspired to build something else that is in the middle of a forest. Because I've been working on some of my suburban Copperdale builds for my save file, and I was going to continue to finish them. They're like half done, but I was like, I really just want to build something with flowers again. And I decided on this build. It is a red floral cottage that has 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. It's pretty small, but it has everything that you would need. I managed to fit in a living room and a dining room downstairs, which sometimes I can't always do with the size of the builds that I make. And I started out this build by mapping out where I wanted the height to be, whether that be like a smaller tower or a roof peak like towards the front. And I settled on 2 small towers off to the side and having a like wider width octagonal kind of section at the front, which ends up being the living room. I think it looks really nice. And I was playing around with this piece right in between the tower and that other larger room because I wanted it to be open and have sort of like a slope leading through it, and putting the front door in a nook in that area, and which I haven't really done before. And I was like, maybe I could make this work and it'll look good, because I really wasn't sure like what shape I wanted this build to have. I just wanted to play around with different things and see what I could come up with. So I start just raising up the terrain height to be at the exact height of the archway, and I realized that I want the slope to be a little bit higher, so I just bring the foundation up a little bit and I play around with like a slope that feels natural and has enough space to smooth out after and like look decent. And there's not a lot of space in the back of the lot, but I found it was okay to just like have a very small amount of space, because at first I was going to have this sort of be like a pathway wrapped around both sides, which didn't end up happening. I put a lot of different foliage over there though, and a fountain. So there's like almost like a back patio area, but the two don't actually connect. And I'm using these like more round flat rocks. I've never used these before. I think those are from Eco Lifestyle. I don't know. I don't like really expand what rocks I use very often. And so when I had seen those, I was like, these are a really nice texture. Maybe I can layer these around. And I'm actually really happy with how it turned out with them. They also look really good with the other rocks I used to hide some of the terrain paint on the slope, which I I don't even remember what pack those rocks are from. Get Together, maybe? I don't know. I use those rocks a lot, and I really never thought to use those other like round piles of rocks, but it looks really nice. And I also put them over by a small pond because I always need to just throw in a pond. I think it helps to take up enough space to not have to like put a lot of landscaping around, which is sometimes very time consuming. And this is where I decide that I want to go with a red theme for the cottage. I picked out those red flowers. I thought they looked really nice, and I put some accents of purple around. And you can see I'm putting like these lush green pieces on the roof. I do end up deleting those because when I turned off G Shade for a second, I thought the greens stood out a little bit too much with the rest of the landscape, because the grass for this lot is like very yellowish, and the roof pieces I picked out was like super, super green. And so I decided to change those out. And I think I just put some more like red flowers and stuff on the roofs instead. You can even see how much that green stands out with the thatched roofs that I picked out, which I also just didn't like, because usually I love those like green leaves hanging off of the roof pieces, but it stood out way too much for me to actually keep it like that. And so I'm using these really pretty red flowers on the roof and adding some more. I do end up, like, when I'm taking pictures later, I added some more plants to the roof, but when I quit my game, I got an error and it crashed, and so I don't know if it actually saved. So I may not actually have extra flowers on the roof when I upload it to the gallery. I don't know for sure, because sometimes it saves, sometimes it doesn't. And another thing that I don't really often use are these jungle adventure flowers. My friend Sash uses these in her builds all the time, and they work so well with her builds. And for some reason, I'm never able to like have them look natural and look good in my builds, but I think it worked in this one. I feel like I got it down a little bit. I mostly just like sizing it down. Maybe that was my problem is like I wasn't sizing them down much when I was placing them around, and I was maybe using way too many of them in one area where this is just like a straight lines around. And I think I add a little bit more to the tower to the left as well. And the tower to the left is like such a weird part of the build because it's like detached from the rest of the home and you kind of have to walk outside to get there. And I decided to make both towers, like the bottom and the top, be bathrooms. So I guess your sim has to walk outside to get to both of the bathrooms. I really loved picking out the plants and flowers for this build. I was able to use a lot of objects that I don't really use often, like the rocks, and I don't use those red flowers much, especially not sized up. I thought they looked really nice sized up. And I'm also using the jungle adventure wallflowers that I almost never use. There's some red flowers from one of the one of those early stuff packs, romantic garden stuff pack. I also use flowers from there. And this build was actually, it like inspired me in real life because I was on the side of my house where I have like my vegetable garden growing, and I found these large rocks that we had that weren't used for anything. And so my brother helped me make like a circular like rock garden, and I've been picking out, well, I haven't been picking out flowers yet, but I've been looking up what kind of flowers I want to like mix into there because I know that I want to plant my rosemary plant down there, as well as like I want to get some more lavender because I have lavender growing right now and it's like fully blooming finally, and I put in a container with some other stuff, and so I would really like to have like more space for it to spread out. And so like this build is like making me think of that even more. And I said like a couple months ago how I really wish that I could decorate my garden a lot more. And so finding those rocks, I feel like my dream is coming true. And now it's like finally gonna look really nice, especially when all my plants are growing. I'll probably post some pictures on my Instagram story when I have like more stuff going on and when the rock like bed actually is filled up with flowers and stuff. Yes, I posted a couple of pictures, but it was only a couple of containers that are on like my back deck, and I would do want to share some more eventually. So if you're interested in seeing garden pictures every so often, my Instagram is in the description. But that's also why this video is a little bit late, which I think last week my video was uploaded a day late too. It's been getting warm out, so I've been spending more time in my garden and doing stuff, but this weekend I was really busy and tired and the weather's warming up. So yesterday I was trying to do this. Sorry, my dog was barking, but yesterday I was trying to do my voiceover, and that's when I realized that this is gonna have to be late because it was so hot in my room, and I have to have a fan on in my room like constantly in sort of late spring and throughout the entire summer, and it like cuts out way too much with my like voiceovers. You could definitely tell it like sounds very strange when I have my fan on because the mic is like fighting to cancel it out, and it just sounds really odd, and I couldn't survive by like constantly turning the fan off and then turning it back on when I paused in my voiceover. But today's a little bit cooler, and so I can have my fan off and it's not a problem. Also, the inside of this build, I do skip over picking out the wallpaper and the floor plan and stuff. So in a little bit, it's probably going to jump right to it and you'll see all the wallpapers picked out. I'll try and talk about it if I recognize what packs they're from. I only use like a few different ones, I think, so I'm sure it'll be easy. But for the outside, I decided to use the Seasons rocks because I liked the texture of it. I felt like it matched well with the texture of the other rocks that I'm using for the first time. And so I used these like this wallpaper for it. I was looking around at other packs and I was thinking about using the Castle Estate stone, but I'm like, I use that all the time and it doesn't have the texture that this one does. And then I found a really nice wallpaper that kind of reminds me, is it Tiny Glade, the game, that like little building game that came out over the spring? I think that's the name of it. But anyway, I realized I don't even know the name of the pack because I just recently bought it. Hold on, let me go and check. Okay, the kit I was thinking about was the Riviera Retreat kit, which I hadn't like no plan on buying because I was like, oh, I don't really do patios. And then I'd seen my friend building and she used the curtains from there. She showed me some of the objects. I was like, okay, you know what? I'll buy it. And so I bought the kit and I only just discovered that it has a really beautiful stone wall. And I wanted to use it and I was going to use it. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I just stick with my original vision of the Seasons one. Also, I was just like, maybe I don't use a kit for like the exterior, even though I'll probably end up using it eventually. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm like, am I going to use this one item from the kit? And it's usually always I like talk myself out of it when it's like a wallpaper or something really large, and then I'll put like a random piece of clutter in from one kit. So I contradict myself all the time. But now we're on the interior of the build, and I didn't use too many different things in here. I believe the stone floor in the kitchen I also used in the bathrooms, and I believe it's from Jungle Adventure. It looks like it is. The stone walls, I use the same one from the exterior, so that's Seasons. And the red and gold wallpaper, it feels like a Realm of Magic wallpaper. So I'm pretty sure that's what that one is from. And I used the same sort of things throughout. And then upstairs, I believe I used the same exact wallpapers, but I also used a Crystal Creations wallpaper in the very like small bedroom. Both bedrooms are very tiny in this. I couldn't really fit a whole lot upstairs. I did turn the top tower into a craft room. I always forget to decorate the top towers of my builds. Like if there's a third story in it, I will not go up and remember that it's there. And so I remembered last second that it was there. And I was like, what am I going to do in this tower? Usually I do like a painting studio. And I was like, you know what? I haven't done that in a while because I was trying not to do the same thing in all my towers. And then I'm like, you know what? I could do a little craft tower. So there's a place to knit and cross stitch, I believe. And I think that's about it because it is the octagonal tower, which you see the bathroom is too. There's not a lot of space in it. And both the bathrooms look very similar. I was trying not to have them be duplicates of one another, but I really thought that the Realm of Magic toilet looked a lot better than the vampires one that I had picked out, so I used them for both. I also forgot to mention the wood floor is also Jungle Adventure, which is another item I don't really use, but because I use like the Jungle Adventure stone floor and I used the flowers outside, I was like, you know what? I feel like this is a theme now. And I brought in some of the red flowers I put outside and I put them in the bathroom. I know they look a little bit funny, some of them with like the change of lighting, but that's something that I personally I could just ignore and pretend like it's not a problem because I really like how outside flowers look inside, especially like growing out of the stone. I feel like it looks really pretty. And I have some growing by the sink. And I really like the like which pack is that again? The romantic garden one. See, I always forget the name of it. But I like those flowers sized up to the red flowers. You would have seen them outside, like right next to the bathroom. A lot of the flowers just look really nice sized up, and so I did that a lot for this build. I was able to squeeze in a dining room table over in this corner, which I didn't even know what to do with that space anyway. I probably would have just put a desk with a computer there, but I put like the werewolves one tile desk with the typewriter computer from Cottage living in sort of like the entryway hallway that's like split, like you go to either the kitchen or the living room from there. But I really love how this wallpaper looks. I think it really helps to balance out the inside and exterior to have a similar like vibe and style, which sometimes I struggle with because sometimes I think that my interiors and exteriors feel completely unmatched for some reason. And maybe I'm being like too critical of it, and maybe it's not that big of a problem and it doesn't look that drastically different. But this one I feel like matches pretty well with one another. Another thing I just remembered with this build is that this is like the first build that I was working on where I kind of slightly adjusted some of the settings in my G shade filter because I've been using the same one all the time and I love this one. And I was just playing around to see if I could make it a little bit like sharper, and I decided to disable one of the blurring effects. And I don't, it doesn't make like that much of a difference, but I don't know, maybe you can tell. It's probably very subtle though, because I remember when I was disabling things and just seeing how they looked, I was like, oh yeah, I could like tell that the texture of the rocks feel a little bit more defined instead of being blurred slightly. So maybe it makes a difference, but I think I'm gonna keep it like this because I mean it doesn't make it look worse. So it's like not a bad change, I don't think. But now I'm just finishing up the living room for this, and I was really just picking out different artwork that I thought would fit in. I also decided to just use the same green curtains pretty much in every single room. I thought it looked really nice with the red walls, and it looks pretty good on the stone walls as well. I guess I do change up a little bit. I do put a smaller curtain on those window. Well, I guess only one window in the smaller bedroom, which doesn't have a lot of light. It feels almost like a closet, and it feels even more like a closet because I put a clothing rack on the wall. So really it's like almost like maybe it was a walk-in closet that was converted to a bedroom at some point. It is very small. Maybe it could be cozy to some. I feel like I'd be claustrophobic in there, but you know what? The Sims, they don't know, so it's okay. And I knew that like when I was doing the living room, I was gonna come back and put some more clutter in. Sometimes when I'm building, I just can't be bothered to look through all the clutter when I'm working on one room. So occasionally I'll just like get the basic furniture down for the layout of the room, and then I'll come back in and I'll add some more pieces here and there. And so that's what I was doing pretty much for this entire downstairs. And now I'm working on the upstairs. There's not much I could really do with this hallway space, but I do manage to fit in a couple of things. And at first, when I was lining up those railings, I had them in a way where your Sims wouldn't be able to use them, and I had to fix it. But I think it all works because my Sim did use one of the beds to sleep in, so I think they could get up here. And I really had to ignore that the roof is cutting into the bedroom wall, and so I decided to just cover the entire wall with bookcases. I was like, I know that's going to annoy a lot of people, and like those are little things like that I can try and ignore, and it's not like that big of a deal to me. But I feel like just putting bookcases there was like a perfect plan because now you really don't see it, and I don't have to change the roofing on the exterior at all to have it not like clip into the wall over there. I always forget that's an issue, that if you have your house raised up on too high of a hill, or like the foundation is too high up and you have a rounded roof piece, it always cuts into the walls. And I always forget about that because I don't usually put like round roof pieces over there, but I thought it looked really nice from the front. So I'm glad that I made it work, and I'm also happy that I was able to cover it up so you don't see it at all. And I was really struggling to figure out like the furniture in that bedroom because it is so small, but I wanted a dresser and I liked the green dresser that I originally picked out, but I thought it was way too big for the space, so I just used a single tile one, which it looks nice and there's just some plants next to it that helps it feel a little bit more lived in and not just an empty room, which is what I was worried about. And I really like the rugs I picked out for this build. I mostly was just going with red or green swatches, and I was able to use some rugs that I haven't used in a long time, or rugs that I don't think I've ever really used. Like, I don't ever use this rug I used in the bathroom here. I don't even know what pack it's from. Is that one of those hidden rugs in like Get Famous or something? I don't know. It looks like it. That or either a vampirus rug. I'm not really sure. But the last part of this build is just the tiny craft tower, which I thought was nice and cozy. I added some different hobby stuff up here, like an open book that came in the Cozy Gamers kit, and just other little miscellaneous decorations. I end up putting a chair up here as well, and I remember to make the lights feel a little bit warmer. I was like, why is the lighting so harsh up here? And I was like, oh, I didn't change this light up here because I also completely forgot about the tower until last second. And I didn't have a TV in this build. It didn't really fit in well in the living room, so I put one up here. I put the TV from the Secret Sanctuary kit off to the side. So now there is a place to watch TV in the build where there was like not going to be one. Because I don't know, like I loved the window down here and I didn't want to remove the window to put a TV because I did consider putting that TV down here. I just didn't think it looked very good without having the really pretty window, especially in the exterior of the build. Now we're into the screenshots. There's not many, but there are a few. And if you would like to support me, I do have a Sims creator code that you could use at checkout on the EA app. It's not a discount code, but it does help to support me. It's also in my description if it's easier that way. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully I'll have a video up next week. If I'm not like really busy and I like end up finishing a video. But yeah, I'll see you. Bye.